Ezzy Snell here with Copper Labs, and today I'm excited to talk about different opportunities for decarbonizing the energy system. Right now there's a lot of focus on electrification, which is essentially about converting to renewable energy and then shifting from fossil fuel-based equipment to electricity. And that's great in places where it works, but interestingly, there have actually been a number of studies that suggest that gas may also have a potential role to play in getting to net zero, and I want to talk about that a little bit more. Yeah, so interestingly, as a number of analysts and consulting groups and different organizations have looked into this issue about what is the most pragmatic solution for addressing climate change and reducing emissions. One of the things that's repeatedly come up is that in some places electrification may work really well as a way of reducing emissions, but in other places it may be really difficult or really expensive to have that be the sole approach taken to reduce carbon emissions. And the reason for that is that right now about half of all the energy delivered in the US comes from gas, either directly burned in buildings or converted into electricity. And so there's a lot of existing infrastructure, and getting rid of that infrastructure entirely is going to be really expensive, and it might have a lot of equity impacts as well in terms of people that aren't able to transition away from gas ending up having to pay the bulk of the expense for the system. So what is an alternative approach? Well, alternative approaches that people are discussing involve shifting from fossil natural gas and geologic natural gas to options like renewable natural gas or hydrogen from green electricity that's used to produce that, particularly in times where renewable sources are overproducing and we wouldn't otherwise be able to use that electricity. And combining those low-carbon gaseous fuels with improved leak detection to make sure that none of that methane is being emitted whenever possible, and also energy efficiency so that we're not using more energy than we need. And a number of reports have showed that if we combine those types of strategies, it may actually be possible to almost entirely decarbonize the gas sector as well as the electricity sector, in which case there may be more cost-effective pragmatic routes for getting to net zero. And so at Copper Labs, our approach is that we don't know exactly what the future holds, but we want to help support any utilities that are focused on building a better, more sustainable future. And we do that by unlocking better data from existing meters without having to go in and have a lot of hardware retrofits. Yeah, so in our view, there are a number of different ways we're getting close to real-time data, and really granular, detailed consumption information can really help with utilities' decarbonization programs. One is around planning. So for example, if you're a dual fuel utility that has both electricity and gas, and you're trying to figure out which different types of decarbonization pathways may make the most sense, having better data can really help inform that. For example, there's a big focus on electric heat pumps for heating, which is fantastic, and all of these systems are doing really well and having high performance, but they may not always be the perfect solution for every single case. And so being able to get near real-time better data to really understand how people are using their heat currently can help you decide if it may make sense to replace an existing gas furnace with an all-electric heat pump, a hybrid approach, which would be an electric heat pump with a gas backup, or just a really efficient gas system, for example, like a gas heat pump. And what are the different options and impacts on the gas and electric systems, and also on customer bills. If there may be a case where it's really expensive to upgrade to a different system, it may make sense to explore other options. And so having this type of detailed data can really help with that planning process. Another area in particular is with expanding energy efficiency programs and making sure that we have the deepest possible impacts across a broad swath of customers. And so as one example, in our work with National Grid, one of the things that we found is that in some cases, the data that we collected was detailed enough to be able to actually identify furnaces that were providing heat in people's homes and figuring out which ones were inefficient. And that means that you could have improved targeting for either equipment upgrades or strategic electrification, and really try to get the most bang for your buck when you're talking about efficiency programs. Another aspect is just understanding how people are using energy and being able to use that to inform who you reach out to when you're trying to build a really effective energy efficiency program. A lot of utilities try to target sort of everyone, but that's really hard because not everyone is in the market for energy efficiency upgrades. And so being able to identify and target specific customers that could benefit the most from these programs is going to be really helpful in terms of maximizing cost effectiveness and the overall reach. And finally, one of the more sort of, I guess, wonky aspects of decarbonization is that there are going to be really deep impacts on both the electric and gas system in terms of when demand is happening and what those peaks look like and how we meet those. And so load flexibility, which is basically better matching demand with available supply, is going to be really important for both gas and electric utilities. And again, with National Grid, we had a pilot that we ran where we basically reached out during the middle of a severe winter storm and told customers, hey, look, there's a storm going on and we want to make sure everyone has enough gas to heat their homes. And so if you wouldn't mind, we'd really appreciate your help voluntarily conserving energy for the next couple hours. And what we saw was that the customers who received that messaging reduced their energy consumption, their gas consumption, by about 18% over this 4-hour window compared to the people that didn't get that messaging. So this points to a more behavioral type of approach to demand response and load management. But also the type of data that we're collecting can really help support measurement and verification for other more automated demand response and load flexibility strategies for both gas and electric. So these are a couple real-world examples of how better data can really help to support the energy transition on the gas side. So I hope this has been an interesting discussion to hear about sort of a different perspective. Again, our take is that we don't know if electrification or other approaches are ultimately going to be the best way to go, but we're interested in supporting any approaches that are making a positive difference right now and working with all sorts of different utilities that are interested in focusing on that. So I hope you enjoyed the discussion, and I hope you'll tune in next month for our next video. Thank you so much.